It's a very broad question because clearly, like, the site conditions have a lot to do with the way in which the elevation is read, and then this lack of connection back to the program as well. So to me, they're all interrelated conditions that, depending on topography, can actually change how one reads any of those conditions. So the strip is easy to be read because of the way in which the landscape is flat and allows that framing of the elevation in the first place. So I'm not sure whether I have an opinion about that. I just think it's an interesting, there's something interesting about the relationship between the viewing conditions and then the way in which the architecture expresses itself. But yes, of course. But there's different conditions of interrelationship. Okay, so in the first question I sort of spoke about the relationship of the way in which the topography and the demarcation of space through the strip, the section of the strip, actually produces a frame for each of those facade treatments.
Yep.
And they're all very important because you change one of them and you change the viewing condition. And so every urban condition has that aspect to it. So topography, framing of space, the built environment, all those things are important. And in fact, I've run quite a few studios that look at the conditions of variation within those types of. So yes, absolutely think it's important. Well, I mean, if we think about the surface as a space of formation of identity and representation, then I guess it has quite a lot of significance to the formation of a culture or the perception of people have living in that culture. At the same time, the framing dimensions can have a unique spatial, experiential quality that can be read as being specific to the city.
Yep.
But those things probably have to be designed, and they can be designed, and they would be interesting design problems. And when you're talking about formation of cultural identity through building form, we have no control over how any of that is received. That's what makes representation interesting.
Sure.
At certain stages, people may completely reject the image and identity that you're trying to portray. At other times, they might accept it, and then at a moment of rebellion, that becomes people read buildings. They interpret them. There's there's some nascent level of understanding of what a facade does and what the status of that building is. Buildings are used as images to promote individuals. It's clearly a mode of operation that people use constantly. It's not something that we get accustomed to. It's been going on forever because architecture is not just a mechanism of surveillance, but it's most often a mechanism of promotion, and it has been forever. And sovereigns understood that, capitalists understand that, politicians understand it,
Yep.
private individuals understand it. So it's like it's not getting used to. It's actually how we understand the dynamics in which it that operates, and then contest that. And not accepting and instrumentalizing it is not an answer, because you can't control perception. One must remember that the type of images being constructed in Las Vegas were very unique to a particular type of economic system. Okay, so to treat it as a standard general condition would be slightly problematic. That as students of architecture, possibly going through a second moment where Venturi Scott Brown's thesis starts to get some traction again within the school or in the university or the academy, I think it's very important not to blindly accept the argument in the first place. That there's already a history to the conversation that's starting to reappear, and it would be pointless to start at the beginning It would also be, I think, really important for students to also see what the end outcome of Venturi Scott Brown's position was, to understand why it was abandoned in the first place. So there's two ideas.